All right, now that we have already, for our project here, we're doing values to make two-dimensional shapes appear to be three-dimensional forms, and what we want to do is then add texture. So we found our image, we created our linear lay-in for it, and then we applied values to make the flat shapes look like values, but forms, but now we need to frame this. So then what we did is we learned how to make a symmetrical design by using the vellum here, and we would draw one line, and to get something symmetrical, we flip it over and trace it onto this side. And to get it down here, we flip it again, and so now we know we have a symmetrical design. After we practiced our symmetrical designs, I gave you all a piece of large white paper to fold into quarters, and this is your motif up here in the upper left corner, and then you were supposed to draw your frame. The next part of the frame is to make it look three-dimensional. So right here we have a practice sheet for shading in our frames to make these flat shapes look more 3D, like this form over here. And we know from the beginning of our unit that when we have flat shapes, you can add directional lines to make them appear more 3D, like forms, or you can add values to make these look more three-dimensional also. So when it comes down to shading your frames, you may practice a little bit after you're done with your symmetrical design. And remember, anything that you want to look like it's going back, receding, what you want to do is make it really dark. If something pops up, it's catching the light, so therefore it's going to be one of the lighter values. In between, there's going to be a gradation or a gradual change in between dark, this medium tone, the halftones, and the highlights here. So when I look at the design that I drew, and you can practice what this looks like, you may shade these in very dark. Any shape that you want to look like it's receding, again, going backwards. We're going to make it nice and dark. Again, I hold my pencil. I can either grab it from the top or rest it in my hand and put my fingers around it. Direction also matters. So now I can see that this one, I want this to be a transfer, a gradual change, so I can take my blending stump and blend it out. I know there's dark over here, so you're going to be making this up as you go on your frame. So you have to decide what's a highlight, what's a halftone, and what's a shadow. Over here, this is a mid-tone right in here, so I'm going to just practice creating these shadows and highlights in here, and then this comes around. When you shade your frame, you want equal amounts of white, gray, and black to show shadows. These are tiny spots. I'm going to hold my pencil like a pencil and get those tiny spots in there. Over here on this side is a highlight. Over on this side is a shadow. That shows that this kind of comes up to a point because of the way it is shaded. And always, if something gets a little too dark, you may always take the back of your school pencil with the eraser. I want this to look like it goes a little deeper, so I am going to add some black in here. I'm kind of following this along, but I'm also making up some of my own decisions. So once I have the black down on there, there we go. And I can come around here, so this is going to look like it's deep on each side of this. And again, anything that pops out, comes forward, is going to have a highlight on it because it catches the light. It's kind of like drawing portraits. When you do portraits, the things that stick out on our face are our forehead, our nose, our chin, and our cheeks, because those are the objects that are catching the light from above. So before you start shading your frame, please practice on this one to see if you can make this look three-dimensional, just like this is over here, adding little details of dark and light, and then you'll shade the entire thing. This is a lot of organic shapes. Organic is another word for natural. And what you're going to do is, if you have more geometric shapes, I know a lot of students have been using on their frames, let's say here's a frame, and if you have all of these geometric shapes, will come from over here, maybe come up to here, and then add a semicircle here and here. So if you have some more geometric shapes such as this, all you have to do is refer back to our practice values and look to see how can I make a triangle look more like a pyramid. So I want this part then to be shaded in, and I'm just going to shade in that whole side there. And I want it to come and gradually change up to the light part here, and I'm going to shade this side in over here and take my blending stump and gradually bring that over. So now that shape appears to be three-dimensional form because of the way I shaded it. Things that are in the back are darker. Things in the foreground that pop up are lighter, that catch the light. So if this was one big semicircle, I'd say the light is going to catch around here, up at the top. And so I would shade this in along the side of it. The point being is that not everybody has organic shapes like this. So it's good for me to show you also how to blend in when you're using geometric shapes. Now we know from over here that a rectangle turns into what we know as a cylinder. And we already know how to shade that in so that something a long line like this, or a long shape, rectangular shape, could look like a cylinder. And that's how I'm going to shade this in. And I want to leave my lights. There we go. I would take an eraser and clean this up. Last but not least, I want this to look like it actually humps over like this. So if I want this to look like it comes off the page rounded, I'm going to need to shadow both edges in right here and right here over on this side, because I want that side to look like it goes down, and then blend it in, and I have that highlight up there on top. So you may practice organic, or you may practice organic, or refer to this if you have geometric shapes. And that is how your, ooh, I need to do this one also still, but this is just a demonstration. So you all have this worksheet already at your desks. Once you are done drawing your lines, your design, your symmetrical design on your frame, the large frame for your work, then you will go on to shading it.